All right, so looks like we are live. So today is class in session. So what are we talking about today? So today we're going to talk about business model canvas. So basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a way for us, for you to get a new concept of how to look, how to look at a business, right? Because a lot of people just think that a business is just selling products or it's just selling some sort of service. There's more to business than just selling product, right? Business in itself is a way of life, right? Now, if you look at your house right now, you look at it, if you realize almost a lot of the products that you see within your house, you know, items, you purchase it from businesses, right? So, without business, you realize it's very difficult for us in society to navigate. So businesses really help us. They make things easier for us in life. So that's why it's very important for us to understand the concept of business, to understand the concept of money, and that's one of the things here at the Bantu Education. That's what we're going to be teaching the business model campus to kind of give you a framework, a mindset of what a business is and what a business looks like. So let's get into it. So first of all, let's define what is a business model, right? So let me see if I can bring another tab here. So what is a business model? Because a lot of people hear that term. What is a business model? Well, in essence, a business model is really, it's how you create value, right? How you plan to create value, how you plan to deliver that value, and how you plan to, capture that value. So that's what a business model is, right? So, a business model in short is really, so we're talking about um, business, business model. What is it, right? What is it? So, yeah, as I mentioned, business model is just the framework, the way you think, right? So it's basically how do you plan? Let's say you're starting a project. Your project is to sell stuff online, right? So to create a business model, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, okay, what value um, am I creating, right? So what am I creating? What am I delivering? And how am I capturing that value? So what value, right? Value is that's how you spell it. Don't mind my spelling. I'm just yeah, don't mind the spelling. So what value are you creating by selling that product, right? So first of all, how do you plan to create that value? How do you plan to, let's say, uh, deliver that value, and how do you plan to capture value? Now, usually when you're capturing value, we're talking about this is usually the payment aspect of it, right? How do you plan to get paid for your work, right? So this part right here has to do with so capture, right? Hopefully everybody sees that capture. So how do you plan to create? How do you plan to deliver? And how do you plan to capture value? So when you get to the capture part, that's when you're getting paid. So that's when the payment aspect of it comes in. So hopefully that simplifies what a business model is. That's all it is. So you starting a project. You have to ask yourself, what value am I providing from that project or that business, the online? What are the customers? What are people getting from that? What is it making them feel when they see that product, when they see that service? So basically here is you are creating, oops, I just deleted this. So I'm gonna delete this, and then I'm gonna make it a little bit more clear so everybody understands. So so that's how you need to be thinking about a business model. All right, a business model is simply, how do you plan to create value? How do you plan to deliver value, and how do you plan to capture value? So the capture part is really monetization. How do you plan to monetize on that value? Okay, so let me go back here so I can write properly. So value, what is value? So how do you plan to create it, right? How do you plan to deliver it? And then how do you plan to capture value? So whatever it is that you're offering in that project, in that business, you always got to think about that, right? How do you plan? How are you going to create value? When somebody visits your website, when somebody buys your project, when somebody calls you, when somebody buys your food, or what are they getting? What's the value that they're getting? So you are creating the value, and then after you create it, you have to find a way to deliver that value, and then lastly, you got to find a way to capture it. So as I said, capturing it is usually, this is the payment part. This is where you receive payment for your service. The delivery is usually the marketing part of it. How do you plan to get it out? The creation is usually the idea, the value proposition, and so on. So hopefully that's what so it's just to simplify what a business model is, so everybody's on the same page. So now let's get back to here, right? To our business model canvas. So when you're looking at a business model canvas, it's just a framework, right? Because usually a business plan takes you, this is not a business plan. This is more of a brainstorming, right? A one-page brainstorming, activity to organize your idea instead of having it in a detailed, that 20-page business summary, which you might need later on, around you need a business plan, but a one-page business model canvas, you can utilize this at any business, any project that you plan to launch. Always, come back to this and kind of give you an understanding what a business model is. So the first thing is first, your key partners. What are your key partners? Well, key partners are very simple, right? A key partner could be, maybe you have somebody, maybe your website, so your website developer, developer maybe your website developer is your partner, or maybe you might have some suppliers if you're in the retail business, or if you're selling hardwares, or vendors, etc., right? Vendors. Maybe the bank is your partner, right? So hopefully you get it. It's pretty simple. Key partners. Who are your partners, right? Who are you dealing with in this project? Who are they so that should, yeah, so basically that's just simplifies that. Now, key activity, right? So key activity, now we're looking at the activity that actually makes up your project, your business, right? What is it exactly that you are offering, or what is it that you're doing that's leading people to your business, to your project? So the key activity is very important. So what is that key activity? Well, every business model calls for a number of key activities. And some of these uh, are the most important action a company must take to operate successfully. So a key activity could be, for example, um, let's say you are let's say you're producing something, right? Production could be a key activity, right? Let's say problem solving could be another key activity. Um, what else could be a key activity, right? So basically, anything that you do in your day-to-day business that generates either customer, that generates traffic to your project. So marketing could be a key activity, and then key resources. Simply, what is it that you have, right? You might have, say, you have your app, so you have your website, so you have some cameras, right? You have some, let's say, you have some real estate, or you have a building, and so on. So that's what you call key activity, right? Now, value proposition. So the value proposition is basically, what are you offering them? Okay. So if they're going to do business with you, if they're going to buy your project, what is it that you're offering? What is your value proposition? Is it, like, remember what I talked about, the value? Anytime you create something, there's gotta be value in it. So are you making it, uh, more efficient for them to buy your service, right? Efficiency could be efficiency, right? Efficiency could be one. What else? It could be price, right? So price could be a value proposition. Let's say accessibility could be a value proposition. So accessibility. Hopefully everybody understands that ability. What else? Convenience, right? Convenience. Right? Convenience could be value proposition, or even a brand, right? Like, look at a company like Nike. The value proposition is brand. Apple, the value proposition is brand. And then so that is value proposition. So now let's look at customer relationship. So with customer relationship now, how do you plan to deal with the customers, right? How they're gonna interact with your brand, right? It could be self-serve, right? Self-serve, right? And by serve meaning that, right? Maybe everything is automated, right? Maybe, how do you plan? Maybe you plan to deal with them by email and so on. So, right? So that's customer relationship. Basically, how do you plan to deal with them? Is it through social media? Is it through by them calling you, right? So that's customer relationship right here. Now, channel. This is the easy part. So channel, in other words, is like marketing, right? Because remember when I said uh, business model is how you create, how you deliver, and how you capture value, right? So here, this is the delivery part now, right? How you plan to deliver this? Well, it could be through social media, right? It could be through your website. It could be through your apps, right? So the channels is really easy. That's the easy part. That's just how do you plan to get the word out? Social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. That's how you plan to get the word out, right? So so that part of it is really easy. So now we're gonna move on to cost structure. So basically here, the question you have to ask yourself is this: how much is how much is it gonna cost me to start this idea, right? Startup cost. Right? How much is it going to cost you to market your idea? How much is it going to start you to acquire a customer? Right? So that's really what it is. Cost structure is how much is it costing you? Right? Add up all your expenses, whether it's marketing, ads. It could be ads. It could be printing. Right? So everything that's costing you to operate your business, if you have to print business card, if you have to start a website. So that's your cost structure. Now revenue streams, right? Very important. As you can see here, revenue streams with a plural, with a S. So every business has got to have multiple revenue streams, right? Now a revenue stream could be um, you know for example, maybe you're running ads, maybe you're doing a subscription business, right? Where people pay you monthly for them to access your product or your services, right? Or maybe you are doing licensing, right? Licensing, or maybe um, you're just selling. You're selling stuff, right? So you're doing you're a broker basically. So those are the different types of revenue streams, and there are many different types of revenue streams. So the purpose of this video today is just to give you an idea of what a business model canvas is, right? I'm going to actually be going into depth on each of the key components, right? And then lastly, look at the customer segment. So customer segment is really, who's your customer? That's the question. Who is your customer? Their demographic, their age group, their their buying pattern, right? So that's your customer segment. So it could be, is it for example, it could be, is it a niche market, right? Is it a mass market? Is it a mass market? So niche means that you're going after specific clientele, a specific demographic, or is it a what do you call it, diversified market, right? Diversify, market, which means both, right? It's both mass and it's both niche market. So those are some of the and as I mentioned, the purpose of today's video is just really to it's just to give you an idea of what a business model canvas is, but I will be going into in depth on all of these on my next video. So I'm going to be going in depth more on the activity, key activity, value proposition, customer relationship. I will actually break it down, right? I will break it down in terms of what does it really mean, revenue streams. So there are more revenue streams here. I just gave you some of them, a few of them, and then the cost structure too. So, but this is the purpose of the video, is just to kind of give you an understanding of what a business model canvas is. So yeah, so wanted to keep it short, but as I mentioned, I will be going more in depth. So more in depth meaning I'll be focusing more on the key partners, on the key activity, on the key resources, on the key structure, on revenue stream, on value proposition, customer relation, channel, and customer segment, what it really is. So let this be your framework, right? So anytime you want to start a project, an idea, always revert to this business model canvas. Okay. So until then, I will, as I mentioned, I'm going to go into each of these categories more in depth so I can actually break it down what it means. So that way I'm not confusing everybody by throwing too much information at them. So I'm going to stop the video, and then until then, what I'll do is I'm going to continue to go more in depth on each video. Okay. So thank you very much for listening and for watching, and I'll be giving you some more information, the different category, as I said.